So while the rest of YouTube has been consumed with the apparent death of Richtofen during the Easter egg cutscene on Blood of the Dead, I have been far more concerned about the fate of the Tranzit crew. The Call of Duty Zombie storyline has been ongoing for a very long time, and while this may be a very unpopular opinion, I found myself the most invested during the Black Ops 2 cycle. Of course, we had the all-time classic Mob of the Dead and the introduction of the Premise crew with Origins, but we also had the trio of Victus crew maps Tranzit, Die Rise, and Buried, and while the first two may have their faults when it comes to map design, the story there always had me completely clueless to what would come next, and the twists and turns the crew experiences throughout their first journey is one of the highlights in the entire zombie story. Of course, this isn't to discount the story in the other games. World at War is of course great for what it is, and the original Black Ops storyline is absolutely perfect and is truly what laid the groundwork for what we have today, but Black Ops 2 always did the best job at pulling me in and keeping me invested. Black Ops 3 did have a ton of story, and while the ciphers and side Easter eggs brought up a lot of interesting questions, the main storyline was pretty undeniably predictable. I mean, we knew exactly what we'd be doing and where we would be going, and the only real diversion from that was the trip from Zetsubo to Blood of the Dead, which is where we're at now, except with a slightly different crew. I think that's why, with Black Ops 4 Zombies, I find myself truly invested again. We don't really know what's happening next. I mean, it's likely that Nikolai takes leadership of what's left of the Blood of the Dead Premise crew, and it's even more likely that they meet up with the original Ultimis on Groom Lake, but further than that, we only have theories and guesswork. Right now, my biggest concern is all about Victus and what is next for that crew. I have a feeling that some of the community just doesn't care, as a lot of people did not really care for the Transit crew whatsoever, but for those of us who enjoyed that crew and wants to see them return in a bigger capacity than just props in a starting room, I want to discuss some major evidence that points towards the crew surviving the ending to Blood of the Dead, because it is very unlikely we have seen the last of the Victus crew. I want to start out with a bit of information that I don't think most of the community is aware of, that being Stuhlinger narrating the Blood of the Dead Easter egg. That is right, Stuhlinger is actually supposed to be speaking to Richtofen throughout the entire Blood of the Dead Easter egg and story. There has been a clip floating around, and I've already shown that in my past two videos, so I'm not going to play it again. I will have it linked in the description if you want to see it, but a random guy on Twitter managed to trigger a dialogue with Stuhlinger on Blood of the Dead. So far, he is the only one that we know who has been able to do it, and had no idea how he did it. Turns out that was a total glitch, and it's since been confirmed by very reputable sources, that I will again have linked in the description, that Stuhlinger is actually supposed to be following Richtofen throughout the entire Easter egg, talking to him in his head throughout each step. The person who accidentally triggered it did it by mistake, and unless Treyarch decided to cut this entirely, which is incredibly unlikely, Treyarch should be fixing this in the next patch. In some of the other dialogue during the Easter egg, Stuhlinger knows all about the Weasel, and tells Richtofen that the bird you are following throughout the Weasel is him, and also, and this is very, very important, gets very angry at Blood of the Dead Richtofen after the last pod is revealed that contains the Great War Black Ops 3 Richtofen. I can't play the dialogue for you as no one currently has access to it, but the reason why this is so important is, well, there is a phone call on Classified that is very clearly a very angry Stuhlinger trying to contact Richtofen. What is he angry about? The number of Richtofens that are all over the place, and how confusing the multiverse is for him. I did already play this phone call in a previous video, but I think it's worth hearing again.
Is this thing on? Richtofen! Hey, Richtofen! You've been gone from my head a really long time. I gotta be honest, I'm freaking out a bit, man. It's so quiet. I can actually hear myself think. Do you know what that's like? It's not nice at all. So, listen, buddy, old pal, we gotta talk. You sent us here, of all places, but you forgot to tell us what to do. It's dark, it's damp, it's just really filthy. I think the roaches are crawling with roaches. How is that even possible? Wait, shoot. Am I even talking to the right Richtofen? Oh, you could be the other one, right? Or the other one. Yeah, you know what? Just go talk to your Richtofen pals at the hoity-toity Ricky Gang Clubhouse and find out what the we're supposed to be doing.
In my mind, this pretty much confirms that the call on Classified is after the ending to Blood of the Dead. The team thaws out, finds themselves in Richtofen's lab with no idea what they're supposed to be doing, and Stuhlinger is aggravated that yet another Richtofen has been revealed, and he ends up making this phone call, all agitated about the number of Richtofens and not knowing who is who. Victus is absolutely alive post Blood of the Dead. The timeline even says that Victus is only placed on ice to be kept safe until they are needed next. The question is, where do they go from here and what are they needed for? There has been a lot of speculation about a possible Zombies Chronicles 2, and at this point, I think that is absolutely what Treyarch has planned after the Black Ops pass. At the end of the Blood of the Dead Easter egg cutscene, as Black Ops 3 Richtofen and the Blood of the Dead crew are leaving, the shot pans up to reveal that some of the blood vials are very clearly unbroken. Assuming, and I realize that making an assumption is a dangerous game with this storyline, that the Blood of the Dead dimension doesn't just disappear after being closed off, the Victus crew could use those blood vials to escape Alcatraz, and I think we already know the dimension doesn't just fade away, as we can clearly see it still exists after the others leave, as Blood of the Dead Richtofen is shown talking to himself afterwards. Just from a business standpoint, a Zombies Chronicles 2 is pretty much an inevitability, so Treyarch just has to find a way, which they probably already have, to have Victus return to Tranzit, Buried, and Die Rise, and send them to Siberia for a Call of the Dead remake with that crew. I mean, at this point, Treyarch has just brought back the original Richtofen that Stuhlinger knows. On Classified, we are playing as a Richtofen that has yet to experience Moon, but when you travel to Groom Lake, aka Area 51, post-Moon Richtofen and the rest of the crew is there. There is an Easter egg where you can hear post-Moon Dempsey talking about the events of Moon. I'll play that clip for you right now, in case you have yet to hear it.
Them little girl. Know what we did? We told them. Don't believe us. They won't listen. We blew it up. Whole damn planet. Blew up the whole thing. She warned us. Got voices in his head. He used us. He used all of us. Fucking sauerkraut. Gotta break free. Gotta get out of here. Fucks it all up. We can still fix it. Hoorah, sugar girl.
Just bringing you up to speed, when you travel to Area 51, the original Ultimis crew from Moon is right there in Hangar 4. Richtofen, after the events of Moon, shows up on Groom Lake completely brain dead until a zombie travels through a teleporter, goes up to Richtofen, and turns to ash, bringing him to consciousness. This is the zombie Richtofen from the end of the Maxis side of the buried Easter egg, so we now have an Ultimis Richtofen in-game that has experienced the full events of Buried and knows the Victus crew, and particularly Stuhlinger, very, very well. Why bring him back if we aren't going to be utilizing Victus? They could be using any version of Ultimis, but have made a point to even bring back the ending of the Maxis Easter egg to give us a version of Richtofen that not only do we have 3 games of full history with, also knows Victus. I find it really interesting that we now have a Richtofen directly represented in-game, and one that will more than likely become a part of our crew sometime during the DLC cycle, that has fully experienced the events of World at War, Black Ops 1, and Black Ops 2. If Ultimis Richtofen takes the place of the Richtofen from the Blood of the Dead crew, which is the #1 theory at the moment, we could potentially be playing as a Richtofen that has seen Transit, Die Rise, and Buried, been placed into a zombie body at the end of the Buried Maxis Easter egg, and resurrected his previous body on Groom Lake. The quotes and interactions we could get with other characters just sounds absolutely incredible, especially with the Victus crew potentially being around. This is very exciting for long-term fans of the story. As I mentioned in a previous video, Treyarch went through the trouble of creating an entire comic series all following the further adventures of the Victus crew as they worked to find the Chronorium, and made a point to let us know that they were placed on ice only until they would be needed again. With Primus being said to fail on their journey and all signs pointing to Ultimis being the key, it seems incredibly likely that Ultimis Richtofen will be using Victus all over again, hopefully for a slightly less nefarious plan this time around, working to fix everything that he destroyed in the first place and sent spiraling going out of control with the events of Moon. But the point is, this is not the last we have seen of the Transit crew. I am sure that Treyarch has a lot up their sleeve for one of my favorite crews in Zombies history, and one that I have a lot of nostalgia for. It would have been easy for Treyarch to just wash their hands of them after Black Ops 2, but it's clear that this is not what they have in mind. Guys, that is going to do it for today's video. Please leave a comment with your thoughts down below, because I would love to hear what you guys have to say. You brought up a lot of great points on my previous video, and it really helps me get a grasp on where you guys are with the storyline. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to drop this video a like, and if you are new around here, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, and bye.
Up, down, turn around, kill a herd of zombies.